Today I'm going to speak to you on Krishna Janmashtami. And I'd like you to know that, Krishna Janmashtami is not really meant for devotees of Krishna. For them, every day is Janmashtami. I remember telling somebody who said, "Oh, today's Mother's Day, today's Father's Day." I said, yes, in the West, because they've forgotten mother and father, they are forced to remember their mother and father on one day in the year. That's why they have Mother's Day and Father's Day. In India, Mother's Day and Father's Day, especially Mother's Day, is every day. Because every day in India we remember our mothers and our fathers. Similarly, Krishna is to be never forgotten. Krishna is to be the prime focus and continuous meditation of your life. Janmashtami is for those who do not remember Krishna, for those who do not believe in Krishna, those who do not understand that Krishna is God, those who in fact believe that Krishna is some yogi who has attained perfection. They believe that Krishna is just a wise man, a king, somebody who has attained Brahman. So for such people, whom in the Bhagavad-Geeta Krishna considers fools, avajananti mam moodha manushintanam ashritam param bhava jananto mam bhut maheshwaram. Krishna says that such people are fools. And yet people flock on Janmashtami because these people use Krishna as a device to attract people to them. The real devotee of Krishna is one who never forgets Krishna. He is always absorbed in Krishna. And everything he does for Krishna. And this is the principle of Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita wants us to do everything for him. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yat juhosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi samteya, tat purusha madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever charity, whatever austerities you perform, Krishna says, do it for me. So in fact, Janmashtami is used to attract those who are not devotees of Krishna. For devotees of Krishna, for them every day is Janmashtami. Every day is the birth of the Lord. As they arise in the morning, the Lord awakens in their heart, or they awaken the Lord in their heart. And thus, this is the importance of how a devotee of Krishna should take Janmashtami. Of course, we celebrate Janmashtami, fast on Janmashtami, you may feast on Janmashtami, you may celebrate Janmashtami with everything, all in every possible way. But essentially, it is meant for those who are not devotees of Krishna. For devotees of Krishna, Janmashtami is every day. It's very important to understand that Krishna, although we celebrate Janmashtami, is unborn, undying, primeval. In fact, all of us are unborn, undying. And Krishna is the source of all of us. In the Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna finally declares, having seen Krishna as God, he declares that Param, that Krishna is the supreme, and Krishna is the one who is the supreme Lord of all lords. Earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna points out that he has appeared in this world for the sake of establishing dharma. Whenever dharma deteriorates, whenever there's a decline in dharma, at such times does Krishna descend into this world. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever there is a decline in righteousness, in dharma, and there is an increase in adharma, O Arjun, at such times do I appear on this earth. So Krishna comes at specific times in his original form. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So I come to deliver the saintly. I come to annihilate the demons. I come to re-establish the principles of dharma again and again, yuga after yuga. But Krishna says very clearly, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sa Arjunah. If you understand the divine nature of my birth and my activities, O Arjun, upon leaving this body, one does not have to take birth again, but instead comes to my eternal abode. So it's important to understand that the appearance of Krishna is not like the appearance of you and me within this world. The birth of Krishna is divine. The activities of Krishna in this world are divine. And the departure of Krishna from this world are all divine. And if one does not understand this divine nature of their appearance and activities, then unfortunately you will have to come back again into this world. But what does it take to understand that Krishna is God? It's one thing to say that Krishna is God, it's another thing to realize it. And those who realize that Krishna is God are those who have become free from attachment, fear, anger, who are completely absorbed in Krishna. And having taken refuge of Krishna, people who have performed great tapasya, who've been purified, who are full of knowledge, they have connected with God through divine love. Vita raga bhaya krodha man maya upashrita bahavo jnana tapasa puta madhava marata. So becoming free from attachment, fear, anger, being fully absorbed in Krishna, taking refuge in Krishna. So many people in the past have become purified by knowledge of Krishna and thus attain to divine love. And on the other hand, there are people who don't accept Krishna. Avajananti mam mudha manusyam tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita 9.11, When I descend in my personal form, deluded persons are unable to recognize. They do not know the divinity of my being as the supreme Lord of all things. And what happens to such people who do not recognize the divinity of Krishna? What happens to those people who say Krishna is a yogi who has attained the potential of human birth and such like rubbish? People who have never read Bhagavad-Geeta, never understood Bhagavad-Geeta, and are following other fools, as Krishna calls them, Muda. Moga Asha, Moga Karmano, Moga Jnana Vichetasa, Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva, Prakritim Mohinim Ashrita. Bewildered by Prakriti, material nature, such persons embrace both demonic and atheistical views. And in that deluded states, their hopes for knowledge, their hopes for deliverance, their hopes for moksha, all, even their hopes for success in this world are all wasted. And they take shelter of, as he says, demonic and atheistical philosophies. But those who are really and truly Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Upashrita, such people who have truly been purified and who accept God, Krishna as God, they become Mahatmana. Krishna says, Mahatmana tu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha vajante ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim abhyayam. Krishna says, the great souls who have recognized that I am divine in my appearance and activities, they know me as the origin of all creation. They constantly engage in my devotion with their minds exclusively fixed upon me. The appearance of Krishna is very symbolic. He appears to his parents when they are in the worst of times. They are imprisoned by Kamsa, who fears the birth of Krishna will mean his death. And thus, not only are they imprisoned, but also one by one, as his siblings are born, Kamsa comes and kills them. This is very typical because many people will vouch for this. Krishna appears in our hearts when we have really and truly become desperate, when we have truly and genuinely lost hope in the world. Because unless you have lost hope in the world, there is no hope of remembering and attaining God. And this world must show you its true face as being a place of misery, as being a place of suffering. This world has to show you its true face, as if you then realize that you cannot find true lasting happiness here. A very interesting study was done in the West to find out when do people come and attend monasteries, either monasteries or seminaries. When do they turn to God? What is the right time when they turn to God? And he found that most of the time, young people don't turn to God. At least in the youth, in teenage, maybe even in the 20s. They're unlikely to turn to God. This reminds me of an incident When my son was very young, just a child of maybe 3-4 years old, maybe 5, I don't know. And he was having a test the next day in his kindergarten class. So we wanted him to study. But he was watching cartoons on television. So I told him, turn it off and let's sit down and go through your books. And he said, yes, yes, sure. And one program came on, then the next, and the next. I said, when will you do it? He said, after the next program. And that also got over, and he continued to watch the cartoons. So I turned off the television with the remote. And he was so young and so small, he started crying in frustration because he wanted to watch the cartoons, and here was his father who was preventing him. So I must have come from perhaps a Bhagawad-Geeta class. So I said, son, why are you crying at this stage in your life? You're so young. You have the whole of life ahead of you. When you grow up, then you'll realize that this world is indeed the Dukhalayam. It's the place of misery. So this 5-year-old turns to me and says, yes, this world is a place of misery, and you are the cause of this misery. And then I started laughing. I put on the TV again. Because children think that this world is a wonderful place. This world is not Dukhalayam for children. For children, this world is Sukhalayam. And indeed, they think their parents are the cause of the Dukha in their life. And especially in the West, they look forward to becoming 18, when they will become independent of their parents and they will be able to find the Sukh without the shackles and chains of their parental guidance and directives. But what happens, they found in this study on when people join seminaries, is that in childhood and adolescence, they never teenage, they do not join seminary. In their 20s, they do not join a seminary. It takes them full 10 years to realize that this place in this world is a place of misery, that this is a Dukhalayam. And when he realizes that this is Dukhalayam, or she realizes this is Dukhalayam, then they come to the seminary and want to learn about God. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Geeta that this world is Dukhalayam or Shashvatam, a place of misery where everything is temporary. He also says this is Anityam or Sukham Lokam, that this is a world where nothing is permanent, Anityam. And this is a Sukham, where you cannot find lasting happiness. He also tells Krishna, Arjun, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukha, Doshana, Darshanam, birth, death, old age, disease, fault, misfortune, and happiness, they're all guaranteed to everyone. And not just Krishna, even later when Buddha came, Buddha said that the essence of life is suffering. And indeed, he said, birth is suffering, death is suffering, old age is suffering, disease is suffering. To be parted from someone you love is suffering. And in fact, to be forced to bear the presence of someone you cannot stand, that is even greater suffering. But he said, most importantly, that unless the individual realizes that the essence of life is suffering, so long he will never turn, spiritual life will never begin. Your spiritual life cannot begin until you realize that the essence of life is suffering. It's true. Krishna himself was born when his parents were in deep suffering, tremendous suffering. They were kidnapped, they were imprisoned, they were under very bad treatment. Their children were being taken one by one and being killed in front of them. They truly would have lost complete faith in the world as a place of enjoyment and happiness. So also you, my friends, cannot come to Krishna, or rather, let me say, Krishna cannot be born in your heart until you come to the realization that this world is dukhalayam shashvatam anityam sukham lokam, that janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha. You're coming to God thinking that this world is a wonderful place, that, oh God, help me to enjoy this place more. Oh Lord, please give me a Mercedes Benz. My friends all drive Porsches, I must make amends. If you're going to make such prayers, then surely Krishna is not for you. Krishna will never be born in your heart. Krishna will come when you truly in your heart feel that Krishna, there is nothing except you. There is no one except you. I turn to you, I surrender to you. Take the example of Draupadi. Draupadi, when she was being disrobed by Dushasan, turned to Bhishma, the protector of Dharma, couldn't do anything. She turned to all the elders of the court, Dhritarashtra, and all the other elders. Nobody helped her. She looked for mercy to the Kauravas. There was none forthcoming. She turned to her husbands, not one husband, 5 husbands. All those who should take lessons from Draupadi. They thought their husband will protect them. Even the husbands were helpless. Then finally she turned to Krishna because she realized this whole world was a place of misery and no one could help her. And she called out in great distress, Shankha Chakra Gada Pane Dwarkya Nila Chuta Govinda Pundarikaksham Rakshamami Sharanagataha. She called out to the Lord, desperate. Then the Lord saved her. So Krishna is born when you reach the position of Draupadi. Krishna is born in your heart when you reach the position of suffering of his parents. It is when we are in distress that we remember God. This is one of the 4 reasons why people come to Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagawad-Geeta that 4 types of people come to him. Chatur vidha bhajante mam janah sukritino arjuna artho arthati jignyasu jnani cha bharat. That 4 types of people come to me. Those who are in distress. They may be in physical distress, they may be in mental distress, but that's how they come to him. Have we lost a connection here?
No, sir.
So, when you are in extreme distress, when you are in extreme suffering, when you realize that there is nothing in the world that you desire or want which will change the way you are, then you change your whole attitude and you turn to God. that is when Janmashtami takes place. That's when Janmashtami takes place in the hearts. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna artho arthati jagnyasur jnani cha bharata sabha. One is people turn to him in distress, in physical distress or in mental distress or in spiritual distress, but they are in distress. They are in suffering. And therefore they turn to him. Number two, they come to him because they desire wealth and prosperity and the things of this world. Others approach him out of curiosity. And then there is that person who approaches him with knowledge. And of all those, the one who approaches with knowledge is the most dear to Krishna. Because that person who comes to him with knowledge has fully realized that even if his distress is dispelled, even if he is given great wealth, even if his curiosity is satisfied, he realizes there is nothing in this world that is worth it. That he must and always remember God and forget self. So all of us must look deep within our hearts and we must search our hearts to see whether we still have great and wonderful desires for this world and for ourselves in this world. We must do our duty, of course. We must fulfill all the responsibilities given to us. And if you read the last chapter of the last verse of the Bhagavad-Geeta, it's very clear that we will not be denied the things that are there on this earth. But indeed, our heart should not be there. Even though Krishna guarantees success and wealth and prosperity and fame to those who are with him, those who are his devotees, and this is what is promised to Arjuna, still, he doesn't want your heart to be in the world. Your heart has to be with God. Your heart has to be with Krishna. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evaishasi yukta evam atmanam namaskara. Always think of me, become my devotee, offer homage unto me. Be completely absorbed in thoughts of me and you become self. So let us, on this annual remembrance of Krishna for other people, which is called Janmashtami, let us reaffirm our vows to Krishna. Let us reaffirm our internal renunciation of the world. And let us give our remembrance and our hearts to Krishna in a manner that we remember him and forget ourselves. So, Krishna is to be remembered every single moment of your life. Your whole life has to become a continuous meditation on God. It's not like other religions where you pray 5 times or 4 times or whatever. You have to never forget God. Always remember God and never forget him. Smartavya satatam Vishnor Vismartavya na jatu chit sarve vide nishedesyor etayor eva kinkara. In Vishnu Puran it says, always remember God. There are 2 rules in spiritual life. One is always remember God. The second rule is never forget him. All other rules are derivatives of this. All other rules in spiritual life are derivatives of this. And you must strive to see him in the hearts of all around you. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati tasyaham na pranashami sochaunena. One who sees me in all things and all things in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. So, with this, I will conclude today's session. If you have any questions, please come up with it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, I'll start with the first question. Why do we play childish even if we grow old and the children actually think and act beyond limits?
No, what is the question?
So, even if we grow old, so sometimes we make such decisions and choices which are so childish and foolish in nature.
For
But
example,
uh, so not making wise decisions, and because of our vrittis and prakritis, we choose to remain weak instead of choosing wise. But if we look at children, they really think and act beyond limits. So why
I don't
is
understand the children bit. What are you asking exactly? Why do we make unwise decisions? Is that your question?
yes, sir? That's how you can say it.
The question is, why do we make unwise decisions?
Yes,
And the answer is, whenever you forget God and remember self, you make unwise decisions. Whenever you remember God and forget self, you get a sense of perspective. You become Sakshi and you're able to make good decisions. But if you remember self, you remember your ego, and you forget God and the principles that He has taught us, then we are guaranteed to make unwise decisions. Is that clear?
absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So with that, moving to another question. So why is that most of us are not really happy and satisfied with what we have? People only look for what they do not have.
In this world, no matter what you have, you will never be happy. When you have God with you, it doesn't matter what you don't have, you will be happy. This is very, very important to understand. Some of the most miserable people in this world are the wealthiest people in the world. And some of the most blissful people in this world are people who are indeed living with very minimalistic possessions in their lifestyle. So the things of the world can never satisfy, never ever satisfy. You may imagine that possessing this will help you to become happy. You may think that if when I have that, I will be happy. But it never works like that. I don't mean that you should renounce the world and you should not strive for the things of the world. To the extent it's your duty, you have to do your best in your profession, in your workplace, for your family, for your people who are your dependents. You have to strive for the best. But don't put your heart in it, because even when you attain those things, you will not be happy. Happiness is obtained when you forget self, when you remember God. When you remember God and forget self, then you will be happy. You should
Absolutely.
understand very clearly that those who want to be somebody are always miserable, whereas those who realize they are nobody are always blissful. Is that clear?
Yeah, definitely so. Happiness should be independent of material things.
Santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchaya mai arpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priya. Krishna describes his devotee. He says, Santushta satatam yogi. He says that yogi who is always content, but he still struggles in the world with great determination. Yatatma drida nishchaya. Because my arpita mano buddhir, his mind and intelligence is surrendered unto me. Such a devotee is my devotee. Such a yogi is my devotee. So don't seek happiness, seek contentment.
Definitely so.
See, people don't realize that God is really controlling everything. And when God is controlling everything, everything in your life is going by God's plan. Why not simply accept that? And when you accept that whatever is happening by God's plan, you will be content. But if you feel somehow your life is not under control, that no one is in control, that I have to struggle, I have to do this, I have to do that, you just do what duties God has given. But remember, God decides everything. Be content, be happy. Don't seek sukha, you better seek santushta. Don't seek joy in the world, you seek contentment in the world. See, for the devotee of God, for one who's the devotee of God, his wealth is his austerity, is his ability to do without things. So your ability to do without things is your wealth. I'm not asking you to give up the things of the world. I'm asking you not to be hungry for, greedy for the things of the world that don't come of their own accord. In the Bhagawad-Geeta, 2nd chapter, Krishna talks about Sita Prajna. He says that apuryamanam achalo pratishtam samudram apah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama pravishanti sarve sa shanti mapnoti kanna kama. So he is describing the person who is Sita Prajna. He says, just like the ocean never refuses rivers that run into it in flood in the monsoon season. He doesn't say, don't come. It welcomes all the rivers. On the other hand, in the summer, when there is drought, when the rivers have dried up, the ocean doesn't become less full. So also, be like the ocean. Be like the Sita Prajna. Remain always full, remain always content. Don't refuse the things of this world, but then don't run after them. Don't be a kami. Don't be a person who keeps on expanding his desires. Don't refuse the things of the world. Welcome the things of the world that come to you unsought, that come to you as a natural result of your prarabdha. Is that clear?
Yeah, sure, sir. So, sir, can we say, sir, do we have then free will or not? If everything is happening according to God.
I think I've discussed this earlier, that everything occurs as a result of Prakriti. It comes from the unconscious. And conscious part of your life, or the conscious decisions you make in your life against your Prakriti, are almost impossible. So, free will you may not have, but you have the ability to say won't. So you may not have the will to do something, but you have the right and the will to say I won't do something.
Absolutely.
So you may want to become president of the United States, but unless you're born there, you can't do that. So there are many restrictions in your life. And you can live happily within those restrictions, you need to be content. You need to remember God and forget self. And unexpected good things also come into your life. And when unexpected good things come to your life, you should welcome them. You should celebrate them. So we don't want a joyless existence, but we don't want a greedy existence of constantly desiring this and desiring that.
Sure, sir.
Any other?
Sir, these were our questions for today, and thank you so much for such a wonderful session. So we will see you next week. Thank you so much.
Okay, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you so much.